Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Aiden and I am a huge Barcelona fan. I recently started a podcast with my friend Nick Cook, and the podcast is called Kickoff Glitch. And while making the podcast, I thought, you know what? I watch every Barcelona game. I've been a Barcelona fan since I was about, really, really young. It's been about maybe 12, 13 years now. And I thought I may as well make some content on Barcelona as well, since I basically watch every game and I have a lot of things to say. So essentially, I was going to actually make this early on in the season, before the season started, and after every game, but I have been a little bit busy and trying to sort everything out. As you can tell, I haven't really got a proper microphone yet, so I have to use this in the meantime. But I thought, as my first video and a welcome to the channel, I'll do a quick review of this season so far for Barca. So essentially, how I'm going to structure this is I'm going to give a first sort of overall short summary of what I think of the season so far. And I think the best way to sum it up is I'm content. Now, I'm not overall amazingly happy, but I'm not sort of concerned either. It's been the start of the season. It's been three tough away games, in a row, which is always a difficult thing to deal with, especially Rayo Vallecano and how bad the pitch was. And to get 7 out of 9 points, I don't think it's that bad. I see some Barca fans overreacting at the moment, and I don't think it's honestly, too much of a concern. The one thing I do think is a concern, though, is the back line. I think it honestly needs some serious improvement. Losing Inigo Martinez was absolutely huge for the team, and I'm still not sure how we're going to sort of deal with that. And I really hope that, Flick starts to, sort out the back line a bit more. We can kind of get going. In regards to the attack, I'm not really too concerned, to be honest. Lewandowski obviously has been out only playing really, really small minutes. I think he's getting fit now, and I think we should be okay once Lewandowski comes back in the fold. He's obviously a really important part of the team. And the other main concern I sort of have that I want to just raise as an overall summary is our number 10 issue we have at the moment. So obviously we have Dani Olmo and Fermin Lopez as our two options. And at the moment, it hasn't really been working out. And I see a lot of Barcelona fans are quite concerned. So I'm kind of interested to see where that's going to pan out at the moment. I think that has been our main, behind the back line, been the main area of concern. So moving on, I'll firstly speak about Matchday 1, the game versus Mallorca. So the way I'm going to structure these videos going in the future is for every single game I cover, I'm just going to give essentially a really short statement that I think sums up my thoughts on the game. So for Matchday 1, Mallorca, my really, really short, simple one-sentence summary is not bad, but what I expected from the start of the season. So you can basically tell that the team was coming off from the off-season. It was quite interesting, quite low intensity, not really, too many technical sort of patterns of play on display. But you could tell that the same players were, still in good form, such as Yamal, Rafinha, and Pedri. I do think, obviously it was an interesting game. There were the two red cards, quite controversial, but it was pretty standard, just a standard Barcelona win. I do think there was a big intensity drop off in the second half, which was a little bit concerning, and I know Flick himself actually addressed that too. But, first game of the season, it's kind of what I expected. Moving on to Matchday 2, my really quick summary for that one is I was impressed by the mentality, but concerned by the performance. So obviously, Barcelona, comeback kings, right? At this point, we are the remontada champions. I know Real Madrid wishes they were, but with all that happened last season and they're, just honestly, I can't believe that. Like, Real Madrid literally, I'm pretty sure they printed something on their sleeves this season about, like, making the remontada. I forgot exactly what it was, but there was some sort of comment they made that they printed onto their shirt about being comeback kings. Even though last year we literally whooped them all 4 times, but, and they couldn't come back against Arsenal, even though they said they would, but that's another story for another day. Yeah, but this just really goes to show how impressive Barcelona's mentality under Flick has been. I am really concerned though by the performance. As I said, I think the back line is really, really missing Inigo Martinez's leadership, and you could really tell in this game. But I think we did well to come back from it. Obviously, it's not ideal, but at the end of the day, if you get the 3 points, that's kind of what matters, especially at this start of the season with how tough the fixtures are. I think Rashford was actually pretty good in the first half. I think he was unlucky to, with the circumstances, to have to come off halftime to bring, Rafinha out to the left again. And just, I think it was just very unfortunate that, he had to be subbed off. But I think he did do pretty well. Another thing I want to talk about for this game, aside from the comeback, is the formation. At the end of the game, it was really interesting. I noticed Flick actually put Rafinha as a false left back and subbed Lewandowski on and kept Ferran Torres on. So they were playing with two strikers and Rafinha left back, which I actually thought was really, really interesting, and I did not expect that. And the last thing I want to say for this game is Pedri, man, he is just amazing. I honestly think, and I stand behind this thought, that he might be the best player in the world. Now, if you actually want to check out the video I made with my friend on my podcast, we actually made a video that was top 10 players in the world at the current moment. And I put Lamine Yamal first, Pedri second, and Rafinha third. Obviously, a bit of Barcelona bias there, but I generally do think that Pedri is one of the best players in the world. And even though I do think Yamal is, a better sort of player, I don't know. I actually don't know, to be honest. I think I could honestly hear the argument for Pedri being better than Yamal. In terms of how important they are to Barcelona, obviously, Lamine Yamal is a generational talent. He could go down as one of the all-time greats. I do genuinely think that Pedri and his football ability, his IQ, everything about him is just something I've never seen in football before. Not never seen. Obviously, I've watched Iniesta and Xavi. I was very fortunate to see them, but I think it's just incredible for the time that we're in at the moment of football. I honestly think he's by far the best midfielder in the world, and I don't think anyone really rivals to how good he genuinely is. Moving on to match day 3, we have Rayo Vallecano. Honestly, this game was just a mess. But the one thing I do want to say as my main statement for the game is that Juan Garcia has completely changed my life. Man, I could rant for about 10 hours in a video about how much I dislike Ter Stegen. And all my friends know that. A lot of my friends don't really think it's justified. But us Barca fans, we know. Um, he's just changed my life, man. I can't believe we managed to pick him up for how cheap we did and how important he's been for us. The main thing I do want to say for this game, though, as well, is that our backline really, really needs adjustment. I do appreciate Flick trying something different in this game, though. We had Christensen and Eric Garcia as the two centre backs, and unfortunately, it didn't work. But I think it is, kind of positive that we can see Flick trying different things out to try and fix that sort of issue. I do think our 10 problem was also evident in this game. The issue of trying to figure out who can be our main 10 moving forward between Dani Olmo and Fermin Lopez, or even maybe Rafinha as we tried in the first game. I don't really know. But yeah, the pitch was horrible in this game. It's a really tough place to play. We always have problems there, over the last couple of seasons. And I think that for us to come away with a point was very fortunate. If it wasn't for Juan Garcia, we could have honestly lost like 4-5-1. Like that genuinely was one of the best goalkeeping performances I've ever seen from a Barcelona goalkeeper. But I think, in the grand scheme of things, getting 1 point, and as I said earlier, 7 points out of our first 9 games with 3 tough away games isn't too bad. Now, I'm going to move on to end off this little content video, I guess, because I'm going to be making content for every Barcelona game moving forward, little reviews and just sort of predictions. I'm just going to go through my player ratings for everyone so far this season. So I'm just going to go through, say a player's name, give their rating out of 10, and then give a quick comment on what I think about them so far this season. Right, so I'm going to start with Juan Garcia. I've got him as a 10 out of 10. Honestly, go. All-time great Barcelona goalkeeping performance in that last game. I generally think he's going to be a really crucial part to us this season if we do go on to do great things like winning the Champions League, for example. Next, I've got Balde. I'll give him a 7 out of 10. I think he's been okay. You can really tell that we've missed him, in those crucial games at the end of last season. And I'm excited to see, how he pans out for us. Next, I've got Kubasi. I'll give him a 6. I do think he hasn't been bad necessarily. That's not why I gave him 6, but I think he is struggling without Inigo. And he also did miss the last game, so I think that kind of like explains why I had him at 6. I think 6 is sort of the baseline for where I'd just give a player for like not doing too much, like not doing well necessarily, but not doing bad. He kind of just has been standard. Araujo, this is controversial, but I give Araujo a 6.5. I actually think he's, been pretty good and a lot sharper than last season. And I know a lot of Barcelona fans really dislike Araujo. And I, not really the biggest fan of him at the moment, but I do think he has looked a lot sharper this season. I'm still concerned for the overall performance, but I think he's been okay. Next up, I've got Eric Garcia. Now, I actually have Eric Garcia as a 7.5. I think in the first 2 games, he was honestly spectacular. I was really impressed with him at right back. And I was ready to give him like an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. But that last game, man, I don't even need to speak about that. He was honestly pretty bad in that last game. And I think that really bumps down his rating for me. Christensen, I've got 6.5. I've actually been really impressed. He's played very little minutes, which is the reason I have him so low. But I think in those minutes he has played, even though we did draw that game, I think he's looked really composed and has impressed me. And I personally think he should be one of our main centre backs moving forward. Next, we've got Koundé. I'll give Koundé a 6. I think he's been, standard, okay, but I don't really think you can judge him because he hasn't really played many minutes at all, to be honest. That's why I kind of have him at that baseline six. De Jong. Now, I actually think De Jong has been 8 out of 10. I'm really impressed with him this season. I think he's, started really well. His last game in particular against Rayo, I think he was one of our better players on the pitch, to be honest. I know a lot of Barcelona fans completely dislike De Jong and think, Casado and Bernal and Gavi should be starting over him. But I was really impressed with De Jong, especially in that last game. I think he's a lot more quicker and better at moving the ball forward quickly compared to the last few seasons, which I think is main people's concerns. But I think he's been pretty good. I'm being really impressed. Casado, I'll give him a 6. He's barely played. Gavi, I'll give him an 8. I think he was really crucial, especially in that comeback game against Levante. I think he looks back to his best, and I'm really excited to see where Gavi will go this season. Pedri, 10 out of 10. Nothing else to say. I think he's personally been my player of the season so far in these first 3 match days, and I just have nothing else to say. He's, the best midfielder in the world, in my opinion. Dani Olmo, and for me, I'm going to give both these ratings at once. I'll give them both a 5.5. I'll be honest, I haven't been impressed with either of them this season. I know they're good players. I know what they're both capable of this season. I just think they, haven't really been what we're looking for. Ferran Torres, I'm going to give him a 7.5. I think he's been good, but not amazing. He's scored goals. He's, been important for us. He's, gotten us points. But I do think we are missing Lewandowski. But, I still give him a 7.5 because I still think he's been, good enough to be where we're at the moment. Rafinha, I'm going to give him an 8. I think he hasn't been necessarily at the heights he reached last season, which is pretty hard to reach anyway. But I still think he's been good. He's continued on. He's like pretty good form, and I think he's going to be really important for us this season. I'm still impressed with his work rate and just his ability as a player. I think he's been really good for us as per usual. Lamine Yamal, I'm also going to give him a 10. What else is there to say? It's just Lamine Yamal. I don't need to give any explanation for that as well. Started off the season well, and I think this is going to be a really, really huge season for him. Lewandowski, I'm going to give him the baseline 6. Obviously he's barely played any minutes. He's coming back from an injury and hasn't really made an impact, but can't really blame him for that. Rashford, I'm going to give him a 6.5. I think kind of similar to some of the other players I've said, he hasn't really got too many minutes, a bit more than some of the other ones. But I think when he has played, he's looked pretty sharp. He hasn't made a really big impact yet, but I think he's still been okay. Gerard Martin, he's honestly a meme for Barcelona fans. I'm just going to give him a 6. I'm not even going to explain. I just think he's definitely something. And Joffrey, I think he's been, decent, but I'm going to give him a 6 because obviously we haven't seen enough. In the short time he played, I think he was all right, but yeah, not enough minutes to judge. But yeah, so those have been my Barcelona player ratings and my review of the season so far. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts as well, my opinions. And yeah, I'm going to be trying and make a video for each Barcelona game that's on so far this season. So I'm going to try and watch every single game live as I usually do and try and post a video, maybe the day of or the next day, depending on, how busy I am. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed and I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care.